The Ballad of Quincy Duff and the Tangley Lane Trio by Bennett. Now humans have heroic tales of men the size of killer whales who do great deeds and slay dread foes with combinations of clever blows and generally, as a rule, think themselves pretty cool. But little of man's best friend is known, except for love of walk and bone. We really do have no idea what's on the mind of doggy dear. So here's a tale to put this right, a rhyme of courage, noblesse and might. To put our hero dog on the map, you might say the bark behind the yap. Our story starts with Quincy Duff, a mongrel thief and vagrant tough. But like most heroes known of old, this disguised a heart of gold. The day dawned clear, the sun was high, when Quincy opened a bloodshot eye and wandered out on wobbly knees, sniffed his bum and scratched his fleas. Then, as he yawned, he saw a name. Tangley Village, Tangley Lane. Well then, he thought, as good a place as any to steal some meat and spend a penny. Just then he heard a sort of crunching sound. His ears pricked up. He turned around to see another, sleeker dog sitting on a nearby log. Her collar made of purest mink. Quincy went a darker shade of pink, and his heart gave out minute little spins to the distant sound of violins. "Good day," she yawned. "How do you do?" "Just fine," said Quincy. "Who the hell are you?" "My name," she sniffed, "is Darling Noodle. I am," she added, "a standard poodle." "OK, your ladyship. Just point me to the nearest place to nick some food and stuff me face." Noodle smiled and said, "I must confess to find myself in an awful mess, and by my lead, a fine dog like you is just what we need." And though Quincy knew he should be off, he gave a modest little cough. "Well, I'm in no rush," he said, and went a rather lovely shade of red. Thus Noodle bowed her pretty head, raised a paw, and softly said, "In that house with wooden slats there lives a witch who loves her cats. She's famous for her special stew, mainly made of me and you. For what she simply loves the most is puppies spread on buttered toast. She captures them with magic rope, then boils them up to make dog soap and sells it to the local shops. Your job? To see that all this stops. And now she's taken Tim the hungry howler, next door's annoying chihuahua, and much that I don't want him back. He's probably just her tea-time snack, which leaves her tummy rumbling come supper-time, plotting out her next ghastly crime. And if she's peckish, wanting more, she'll probably turn up at our door. So if I were you and didn't want to end as Irish stew—" OK, I get your point. How do we storm the old bat's joint?" interrupted Quincy Duff, who'd frankly had enough, and anyhow had decided long ago to join battle with this evil foe. For though Quincy was of no fixed abode, he lived strictly by the canine code, a mixture of nil desperandum and things never go the way you planned them. And if any dog, large or small, needed any help at all, he'd be fairly zipping there, faster than a nutty hare. "Well, dear sir, let me introduce to you the third in our unlikely crew. His name is Reginald Carruthers, the muscle in our band of brothers. Reginald here can eat whole cars, and just for fun chews up iron bars. And though I go on about his might, I neglect to mention he's not too bright." Then appeared without a word the largest, meanest St. Bernard that Quincy had ever seen, quite likely anywhere he'd ever been. "He's rather like a chap I knew at school, well known as everybody's fool. Now, if I'm the class, then you'd be the man to come up with a cunning plan." At which Quincy just smiled and said, "Don't you worry, lady, I'm way ahead. It's easy. You will act as bait. Before she realises, it'll be too late. Reggie here can smash down the door. You look pretty, I'll hit the floor. Before you know it, I'll find your friend, and then the poet can write the end. Her house was found in leafy trees, and flowers drooped with bumblebees, and birds sang high, and cows mooed low, and everywhere glowed a cheery glow. An old lady stood by the garden gate. "You've all been expected. Gosh, what a wait!" Her hair was white, her voice was cheery. She smiled. "Oh my, well, hello, dearie." And then, in tones of milk and honey, said, "Let me rub your darling tummy. Your skin and bone, you're like a rake. Would you like a piece of cake? I've got some waiting in the cellar. So come along, my little fella, for if you starve, there will be nothing left of you to carve. And who likes eating bone and hairs?" And with that she kicked her smartly down the stairs. "Chihuahua and poodle, oh my, would make delicious doggy pie." And then she slammed the cellar door as Noodle got up slowly from the floor, and though the cellar was pretty dim, she could see a shape, like Tiny Tim. "Yep, yep," said Tim, a doggy curse. "Could that old hag be any worse? I don't know about you, but last time I looked, our goose seemed well and truly cooked." Quincy was watching all this from afar and smiled to see the front door ajar. "OK, Reggie, and now some fun. You go in and bite her bum, and while she's up and about, I'll find the others and let them out." Hydrangeas to the left of them, petunias to the right, into the garden of danger they charged, looking for someone to bite. And sitting there on the mat was a giant pussycat, about 40 stone. You should have seen her. She made Reg look like a ballerina. Reg gave a frightened howl as the cat looked up and said, "Meow," then picked him up and popped him in next door's smelly wheelie bin. But Quincy had fought far scarier foes and was pretty light on his toes, and before the monster cat could turn her head, he slunk into the garden shed. Now, luckily, in case of need, Quincy had taught himself to read. Sitting there on the table was a bottle with a label, which said in words that weren't too long, "Sleeping potion very strong." And further down he'd also seen a tin that said, "Delicious cream." He added flowers to make it pretty and cooed softly, "Now, come and get it, kitty." Presently the monster cat came out, sniffed the bowl and looked about, then took a little catty sip and settled down and finished it. No sooner done, she hit the floor, rolled on her back and began to snore. But then the snoring lump began to twitch and turned from cat to wicked witch. Quincy couldn't believe what he was seeing, a sleeping cat become human being. Quincy halted by the cellar stairs, sniffed the air and waggled his ears, then ran back toward the wheelie bin, jumped up high and peered right in, hoping that, for his own sake, Reggie was now wide awake. "Come on, Reggie, time to do your stuff," said our hero, Quincy Duff. Reg hit the door and it exploded like a bomb or gun that's loaded. In the house were birds in cages. "Let us out, we've been here ages." Quincy barked and grinned and then said, "Sure," and pulled the locks from off the door. Then out of the window they all flew, twittering, "Ta, and thanks to you," and other pretty grateful stuff like, "Birds are friends of Quincy Duff." Then out jumped Noodle and Tim Chihuahua, a.k.a. the pavement fowler. Tim, for once, was quiet and meek. Noodle kissed Quincy lightly on the cheek. Quincy, who had his back to the door, gave a shrug and raised a paw. "Oh, really, it was no trouble. I've had worse than her, maybe double." And never let it be whispered that Duff was scared of a pussycat. Then, suddenly, the skies got darker. "She's woken up, we'd better scarp her." The witch appeared with a carving knife. "You're right," said Reg. "Run for your life." "I'll chop you all into little pieces, then feed you slowly to my nieces." She cackled with the sort of nasty smile that would make you want to run a mile, then maybe run some more, thought Quincy, as he raced out through the door. Then Reg, who isn't small, smashed a hole in the garden wall, and Tim slipped through her knees as Noodle ran lithely for the trees, followed by Witchy in hot pursuit, who tripped over a convenient route and fell down the garden well. They heard a scream, then in a flash a cold and echoey sort of splash. It was a pretty nasty fall. Head first she went, then legs and all. Reg went, "Hooray!" Tim got the snickers. "Guess what?" he said. "I saw her knickers." The witch's fate, I really wouldn't worry. Hers is a tale neither sad nor sorry. She floated down river to Brinley Seas and ran a chain of B&Bs, high season, even cake and teas, and made more money than she'd ever seen, which just goes to show the cat always gets the cream. But for now, the dogs decided to celebrate and hold a sort of disco come fate, which carried on until it got dark. Always a good excuse to bark. But for Quincy, words were like a great black kettle upon which he rapped the cracked black metal, and as dogs they danced by firelight amongst the embers burning bright. He longed to tell his deepest fears, to move the very stars to tears. Instead he shrugged and turned and saw Noodle standing by the door, a purple bow tied in her hair. Duff kind of wished he was and wasn't there. "I'm glad," she said, "that we could meet." Duff stared blankly at his feet. "Well then, I must be off," said Duff, and gave his little cough. Noodle's eyes seemed to shine. She whispered, "Okay, come back any time." And as Duff wandered out, through darkening chill, she heard him say, "I probably will." The end.